You guys have been asking for it. A wall review of all of my 1974 through 1989 Hot Wheels. Black walls and red lines and whatnot. Real riders, speed machines. This is coming very shortly. This video is not it. However, it is a prelude to what is to come. As this wall grows more and more complete, and I really don't want to make the video until the wall is a little bit more complete. So, with that being said, it's not all that far off. Could be any one of my next videos at this point. As you can see, there are very few spaces left to be filled, and this month, March 2015, I managed to fill quite a few of those spaces with some very hard to find cars that I searched and found on eBay, which brings me one video closer to getting to the Hot Wheels Black Wall review. Let's take a quick look at some of those latest finds, because they are among the most rare I've ever come across in a long time. A while back I bought these speed machines mint on the card, and recently I picked up a second set of cars, same ones mint on the card, which leaves me only one choice. As you guys know me, I can only have one vintage car on the card, and then I need a loose one. To be honest with you, I prefer them loose. So here we go. This is a neat little piece. Not overly expensive if you can find it. I think I paid $15 for it. Not even sure what it's called at this time. That's a terrible start to the video, but it's not really one of those highly desirable cars anyways. This, of course, is the Super Van, which cost me about $80. And from what I've noticed looking online, it doesn't seem to matter if it's mint on the card or mint loose. They usually go for somewhere between $80 and $150. It's all red enamel metal paint, the flame tampos on it, gray plastic base, black tinted windows, black walls of course. Just a wonderful collection, or a wonderful addition to my mint loose speed machines collection, which is damn near complete now. And rounding out the speed machines collection for this month, we've got the Super Van as mentioned, and this one here I just took a quick second to check. It's called the Turbo Wedge. An interesting little car that normally had a little plastic wing on the back. You can actually see the little cavity where the wing would have been mounted on the back of the engine. But for the Speed Machines release, only one color of course, in yellow, it was removed as maybe a cost-cutting method. Here is a typical Datsun 280Z, which Hot Wheels called the Zed Wiz, and it's got the orange tampo on, orange, blue, and yellow tampo on it. Much harder to find, and a brand new addition to my collection this month is the Zed Wiz with a red tampo on it. You can see a very distinct tampo coloration difference here, and for whatever reason the red one was produced a lot less than the orange one. It's been on my radar for a long time, and one of my favored sellers on eBay came up with this one as for sale. I bid with wholeheartedness to get that car, and I did spend quite a bit of money on it, which I was not expecting to reach the high point of my bid, but I have no regrets because I really doubt I'll find another one in as nice a condition anytime soon. I also added a new Mustang Stalker. These are all from 1983, by the way. These are the speed machines, and they only came out that 1 year. This Mustang Stalker is quite expensive. Black enamel with yellow tampo. I had bought one not too long ago and was highly disappointed to find that it arrived not from the same sellers I'm talking about. This is from a different seller quite a while ago, which didn't really specialize in Hot Wheels sales, but more of an antique seller, and found that it had been heavily retouched with an obvious yellow Tampo repaint on the roof. You can see the yellow overpaint onto the windshield, and upon a closer examination it was quite lumpy looking. It's got a silver painted grille, for what reason I don't know, because the base is already gray silvery plastic. But I am quite happy to say that I bought this one here, and now my search for a mint version is over. Continuing on with the extremely rare supervan models of the 1970s and 80s, I have for you to enjoy the sight of this very rare black enamel, chrome base, blue interior / window, red line version of the supervan with marker lights in mint condition. Probably the hardest black supervan of the red line era, or of any era, to find is this chrome plastic base version, and they just don't come much cherrier than this. As far as supervan rarities go, that does not top my list for this month, as I have acquired myself a C9 condition, which means almost mint, 1975 promotional KGW radio van, all original. You just don't find them like this very often. Now this one cost me over $500 for this one van, but there's a reason for it. These are exceedingly rare, and they don't come up for sale all that often. You may find them on some sites such as thetoypeddler.com from time to time, maybe around that price range. But as far as eBay sales go, they really just are one in a million, really. 1 in a million searches, I would say. Those supervans weren't the only rare vehicles that I purchased this month, of course. A wide variety of extremely rare cars, mostly from the mid-70s, with a few from the early 90s. We're going to have a look at the rest of these cars presently. Let's start out back in 1973 with this Red Baron. First release of the Red Baron. In metallic red paint with the original red line wheels on it. You can see it's a two-part wheel. It's got the capped front with the backing plate that the wheels attach to. You can see that the car has a metallic red gleam to it, and also the painted on Tampo cross on the helmet of the vehicle. Also on top of the helmet of the vehicle is that point, indicative of the early release cars. And forgive me, that cross is actually not a Tampo. Because this car was pre-Tampo era in 73, they used stickers. You can see that actually is a small sticker. Going on over to the 73-74 Changeover, the same car was released, the Red Baron, in red enamel paint, and some of them received a mixture of wheels depending on if they were running short on the original wheels as the transition took place. You've got the capped rear wheels with the more modern style red line wheels on the front, which are a one-piece mold, and this helmet also features the tall point on top of the helmet, showing that it is definitely an early release of the Red Baron. Moving over to a full-on 1974 release of the Red Baron, the first thing to note is that the helmet top point has been dulled down to just a little bit of a nipple or a nub on top of the helmet. Most of the time you'll also find that it has the modern era, and by modern I do mean 1974 through 1977 red line wheels, as these were the time periods of that type of wheel. Otherwise, these cars were exactly the same. And there's our little history lesson on the Red Baron, one of the coolest little Hot Wheels ever to come out. Next, we're going to look at these Wheel Ferrari P312s, or 312P, I should say. The first release, of course, And these also had, because it was a 74 car, and these castings came out back in the 60s with the Spectre Flame paint jobs. It was quite common for these 74 models, this being a 74 right here, to feature the capped wheels on the back and sometimes the more modern wheels on the front, same as the Red Baron. They all had an opening canopy on the back to reveal a very impressive 12-cylinder engine with the exhaust sticking straight out the top. The feature for this month, of course, though, was the Blackwall version, and this kind of goes against what most collectors, or many, not most, but many collectors believe, are that the red lines are the most desirable. In this case, this Blackwall version of the Ferrari P312 is extremely hard to find. More often you will find this in your eBay searches with the red line wheels. Almost never will you find it with the Blackwall wheels. And this is not an easily duplicated car, or reproduced I should say. Examine the tampos, of course, is always my first suggestion. Check that the wheels are not sloppy and that they have been augered out in the centers to provide for fake axles, which are people often put in with pins that they mushroom out the heads on. And just check for any other strange little oddities that you might find. But overall, most people won't even know that a Blackwall version would be rare. More often you're going to find a fraud car that was a Blackwall with the red lines on it now, not the other way around. The next car we're going to look at is this Mercedes C111. A fairly common car in red line guise, and most of them all looking the same because it really only came out with this one paint job. Only minor tampo variances for a very rare exclusive car that featured the actual C111 tampo on the rear in yellow, which neither of these cars possess because they are not those cars. Outside of that one little change though, this was the only paint variation to see the modern 1974 through 1989 release of these cars, this one being a 74. They were quite often released back in the Spectre Flame era of 1968 through 73, but none with a tampo such as this, and none in red enamel paint. It also came out later on in 77 with Blackwall wheels, same paint job, and could be found with a black plastic base. None of these Blackwall versions are very rare though. This is a red line version with a metal base, quite common, but in good condition such as this, you should probably expect to pay somewhere between $30 and $50. It's actually quite a nice little car, and it's got these very robust gull-wing doors on it. The interesting variation here, which I only know to exist from the old HotWheelCollectors.com website, the new one actually doesn't really share much information on vintage cars, it's more geared towards the new releases. But in the old collectors website, back when I copied and pasted most of it to an Excel spreadsheet about 3 years ago, they described a car having a chrome plastic base, red line wheels, and otherwise identical to the metal one that we see in the background. This one here was rumored to be worth over $400 in mint loose condition, and may or may not be a prototype because it actually was never released with a chrome plastic base. It was only commonly released with the metal base and the black plastic base. Yet here we have one with the chrome plastic base. And I think due to the obscurity of this variation, even though the one I have acquired here is in mint condition, I only had to fork out $160 for this one. Clearly there's a couple other collectors out there that know what they're looking for as far as these odd, rare little old red lines, but not enough so to demand the prices that it may have seen 5 or 10 years ago. Or perhaps I just got lucky. Finally, among the rarest of the 1975 cars, we're looking at a trio of Sir Rodney Roadsters here. Commonly released with red line wheels and a yellow base or body, removable brown plastic roof. These were released in '75 and later on with Blackwall wheels in '77. An interesting little custom piece, the humongous engine. A very rare alternate color, as they call it, version can be found in orange, and it usually sells for between $150 and $300 depending on the time of the market and in what condition it is. Extremely hard to find is the super alternate in green enamel paint. Some people would argue with me that the orange one is the more rare of the two, but from my price guide from the old, now obsolete HotWheelCollectors.com list of cars, the green one is definitely the more rare one. And as far as my eBay searches, that quantifies that theory as well. Look at me talking all scientific about Hot Wheels. Because it definitely demands a higher price to get one in green in the same condition as one in orange. This is, I think I was lucky to get this one at $200. And if you're doing the math, yes, this has been an expensive month for Hot Wheels, but it's also been one of those crazy months where so much has come up for sale that I've been looking for that I basically had to get a line of credit just to get these cars, because that's how dear and important they are to me. Okay, feel free to hurl insults and comments now. An interesting little black wall, the Gunslinger. This Jeep was also available with redline wheels. This is the 1976 version, because of the, or no, 77 version, sorry, because of the Blackwall wheels. If it had redline wheels, it would be the 76 version, and if it had redline wheels and did not have this clip on the windshield, that would be the first release 1974 version. All these little variations you'll see in my soon to come Hot Wheels 74 through 89 wall video. I'm not really sure, it might be a whole hour-long video if I get into all the details and variations such as those for each car, but you will at least see all of the Gunslingers sitting together. And you know, I don't have more than, I have no multiples on my walls, so that's one thing to be sure of. And finally, rounding out the Hot Wheels haul for March 2015, we've got an interesting little trio of Hot Wheels Heroes on Video cars. These ones would have come with a VHS tape attached to the bottom of them in a big plastic clunky package. They're actually quite hard to come by, not overly expensive but very rare. And we've got a turbo streak here with the Valvoline tampo on the side of it. We've got a Solaire CX4 with the weird looking yellow opaque windows. The opening rear canopy to show that huge engine, metal base, and a very early Zender Fact 4. This is a concept car based on some other cars of the early 90s. These all were released around 1991 through 1992 and are actually quite hard to find, and more often found with the VHS tape because certain resellers of them, resale sellers, believe that the VHS tape adds value to the cars when in fact it really doesn't. I mean, I don't think too many people even have a VHS player anymore. We're really after the Hot Wheels. Finally, rounding out, this is the last Hot Wheel we'll look at. Or is it a Hot Wheel? This comes from a 1994 2-pack packaged as a Matchbox construction set. This obviously is the Road Roller, the 69 Road Roller. If you're a Hot Wheel collectors, you're quite familiar with this casting. It's made many appearances between 1987 and present. But look what we have on the bottom. Matchbox. Not even a sign of Hot Wheels other than that it was made by Mattel in '97, which is the exact same year, I believe, or close to it, that Mattel bought Matchbox from Lesney. And hence Matchbox and Hot Wheels are now the same company under the parent company, Mattel. So they obviously just relabeled this Hot Wheels steamroller as a matchbox, but it does look great in the Hot Wheel collection, and I certainly will treat it as such. It's not a matchbox for me. I hope you enjoyed this long and descriptive video of my latest expensive Hot Wheels. A marked change from the last video I've just released with the old chipped up Real Rider cars. But, you know, this is my real passion right here. And it always will be. Expensive little Hot Wheels.